everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Oner podcast, the podcast where we break down and review films all in one big, long, unbroken take. I'm Austin Archer, and sitting across from me is my childhood next-door neighbor and lifelong best friend,
Kramer England.
And we are in your basement again.
Yes.
We just watched the movie Tenet. With your boys.
Yes.
And they'd never seen it before. And I was sitting there going like, I don't know what this movie would be like to watch as
a 10 and 12-year-old.
Yeah, because I'm sitting here as a 38-year-old still straining. I think this was my fourth time seeing this film.
I think this was my third. I believe my third time. Yeah,
and I am still straining. I'm still like I am hanging on by a thread through this movie. I am just
It is. I am the same way. I keep thinking like, like, okay, what exactly is going on? The thing that Tenet has going for it, though, is spectacle.
Oh, geez. I mean, it's always had that from the first watch.
Yes, it's always exciting. It's always fun to watch. I'm pretty confused, but I'm like, okay, they have to do something when the clock runs out, like at the climax. They got to do something when the clock runs out, and I'll know it when it happens. Yeah, and I'll be like, oh, cool. So I can follow it on like the basest level.
But also the way that they're following the clock, because they have markers for like every second. Yeah, it's like like Ives knows. Oh, at 5:11, that's when this building blows up and we can move. It's a visual distraction for us to move into the tunnel. Yeah. And there's all the like blue team has given them down to the second markers of when certain things are going to happen. Right. That
Yeah, it's a lot to take on. I mean, again, this movie is my boys had a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun watching it.
It's definitely like all of his films. Or the films that are like this, Inception and the Dark Knight trilogy, and his more like action heavy films. This is a spy thriller. He's not going to bore you. Like he keeps the pace going. The score by Ludwig Göransson is very thrilling.
It's awesome.
I'd say like his most down to earth, potentially boring for younger audiences film is Oppenheimer, where it's the most like dialogue heavy. And it's more about these kind of philosophical concepts. Not that this movie's not, but it's like if you're not exactly tracking the palindromic shape of this narrative, you can still at least enjoy a car chase scene where cars are driving backwards and forwards and fight scenes where people are fighting. But it's interesting. Both your boys said that their favorite action sequence was the opening one in the Opera House.
I find that very interesting too, because I feel like most people that I've talked to is kind of like, well, why was that even there? Which it is very important. Yeah. It's very important because it does, spoiler warning, by the way, we're going to spoil this 6-year-old movie.
Yeah, if you've never seen Tenet, go watch Tenet.
Yeah, go watch it.
It's worth watching.
It for sure. Like, and if anything, don't think about it. Like they say in the movie, don't think about it. Just feel it.
Feel it.
Just feel it.
Especially on the first watch.
Yes, on the
just enjoy the vibes.
Just like, and it's okay that, I mean, it's a time travel movie essentially. So even Back to the Future, when you start thinking about it, you're like, wait, that doesn't really work. But that's why we have stories. Yeah, we get to imagine the impossible, right?
Yeah. So, I will say, on this being my fourth watch, I think it's safe to say I understand more about this movie.
Me too.
Narratively with each watch. Yeah. Infinitely more than I got on I remember the first watch, it being over and me being like, I remember the entire third act climax sequence being like, I genuinely don't know where we are or what we're doing. Yes. I don't know like what's going on. I vaguely understood that there were two teams moving in two different directions from both the bad guys and the good guys. Yeah. But I didn't, and I vaguely understood that like this is where we need to be to get the algorithm. But I was genuinely like, I don't know where we are, when we are. I don't like. I definitely did not understand that the final battle scene in the movie takes place on the same day as the opening scene at the opera. It took me like 2 or 3 watches before I was like, oh, those are the same day. Yeah. And that's why the movie's a palindrome, is the end takes place on the same day as the beginning.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And that's what I was going to say, is that that scene is very important because it is happening simultaneously with what they're doing when they kill Sator.
Yeah.
And like he is from the future and he goes back to the pet. Like it's all you definitely, this is a movie that you have to have repeat watches to even understand it. Now, this movie, as kind of, I agree with kind of what you're talking about. Like we talked before this, that like, you're not sure if this is a masterpiece, which I agree. I think that this and Inception have many, many similarities.
Yeah.
They're both very high thinking movies. You have to think a lot about them. You have to kind of really rack your brain to kind of follow what's going on. But I think there's a line, and Inception is right at the line, and Tenet is over the line.
Yeah.
Because the end, the third act of this movie, like I get more of what's going on. I understand what they're doing, but I still get disconnected.
Yeah, the ambition of it is so like it's something to watch. Maybe the most ambitious filmmaker in the world attempting his most ambitious film.
Yeah.
And it's a feat. It's like watching, you're tuning in to watch Johnny Knoxville do the craziest stunt he's ever done. And maybe this one doesn't quite work out.
Yeah.
But you still respect the attempt.
Exactly.
You're like, hey, like or like an athlete that it's like everybody knows that Steph Curry's the greatest shooter in the world.
Right.
And as his role playing pieces fall away, as Klay Thompson goes away, it's like, can he still do it? Is he good enough to put the team on his back? And you watch thinking like, and anytime he does do it, you're like, wow, I can't believe he's still pulling this off. But then when he doesn't quite do it, you still respect the attempt. You're like, still cool to watch him try. And that's sort of how this movie is for me, is it's like, there are just technical things that get in the way of this movie being as excellent as it almost is. Yeah. And that's frustrating. Yeah. But it's still like very entertaining to watch the attempt at what he's trying to make. Yes. Because it's like, it's genuinely insane what he's trying to make.
Well, and he obviously has a very good understanding of what's going on. Yeah. Which is amazing. And I agree. Comparing him to an athlete is really good, because also when an athlete is that good, like Steph Curry or Michael Jordan or Tom Brady, there's a group of haters that revel in their failures. Yep. And, like, oh, Steph Curry's the worst. He sucks. It's like, if you really think that Steph Curry sucks, you're an idiot. I understand you don't like him. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with not liking someone who's really good that goes against your team. Yeah. But like, you can't, like, you're delusional if you really think that. And
I think he's like one of the most fun people to watch play sports
in the world. Yeah. He's very exciting, right? And Christopher Nolan. He's an amazing filmmaker.
And there are people who don't like him just because he's too good.
He's so good. Yeah. And it's okay. You don't have to like his movies. That's totally fine.
Contrarian haters everywhere.
Yeah. If you think he's a bad filmmaker, you're fooling yourself. Like, everyone
You're not being serious.
Yeah, like, I get it. Everyone has their weaknesses. There's a lot of exposition. That's probably not his strongest suit. But that doesn't mean he's not a great filmmaker. This movie,
not the best at female characters,
right?
Yeah,
right. Scorsese has his problems.
Sure.
Spielberg has everybody has their problems. It's not, nobody's perfect. But like, this movie is better than like 99% of movies that come out.
I say that all the time about The Dark Knight Rises. I go,
yeah.
I'm grading The Dark Knight Rises on a curve against both the trilogy that it's a part of, and Christopher Nolan's other work. Yeah. And that's why I'm harsh on that movie. But when I go, let's pretend Batman Begins and The Dark Knight don't exist. Exactly. And The Dark Knight Rises is just released as like a one-off Batman movie. Yeah. It might be like one of the best superhero movies ever made. Like, like if I take away the other things that I'm comparing it against, if someone just put out like a one-off, like, hey, this is a movie about Batman. He's been out, he's like been retired for a while, and he has to come out of retirement to fight Bane and like go on this sort of like redemption arc. It might be like,
it's really great. And again, you don't have to love these movies, and it doesn't mean they're the best, but when you compare it to a very mediocre movie that's done by a filmmaker who doesn't really know what they're doing, like it's really well made.
There's so much to enjoy here.
Yes. There's so much craft. There's so much going on that is so much higher than everybody else, but it's fine to not like it, but you have to respect what he did, the attempt that he made, just like you're talking about. And it came out, I mean, it's super entertaining. Even if you don't get what's going on, this is fun to watch. This is beautiful. I mean, Hoyt van Hoytema is an amazing cinematographer. Look at that. The production design, everything is just, wow, this is really cool. The acting is really good.
I get hyped.
It's fun.
I get hyped when I like the pacing of the film, of how he introduces the concept of reverse entropy to you one little piece at a time. Yep. In the opening sequence, we see one instance of it. One bullet. Yep. And it's sort of, we already know from the trailer, like what we're dealing with, but I still like the way that through the protagonist's eyes, this concept of inverted objects and inverted people is introduced slowly to him. And then he goes and talks to the scientist, who may or may not be the scientist who invents the algorithm. Who knows?
Or is it her daughter? She's pregnant. I just saw that. I didn't realize she was pregnant until I saw a video.
Fascinating. I didn't even realize that.
See, there you go.
There's always more.
There's always more.
And we're just starting with objects and objects floating up to his hand, and isn't that cool? Yeah. And it's got that thing of like the Matrix, where it's like, we're going to introduce it to you a little bit at a time, and then we're really going to like blow the doors off of the thing. And I think the first time we really like the build up to the scene at the Freeport, with the plane crash, where the first time we see a turnstile.
Yes.
And walking into that room and seeing the bullet holes, and John David Washington sort of recognizing like, this is what she was talking about. And he can sort of see the way that the smoke is moving.
He's starting to understand.
Yeah. Yep. He's beginning to believe.
Yeah.
But then that first fight scene, I remember the first time I saw the movie, still having this sort of loose grasp on what's going on. Yeah. I just found it thrilling. And I even think the fight scene earlier in the film in the kitchen is awesome.
Oh, it's great. It's a simple one, but it's so good.
I love how brutal it is.
Oh yeah. He's I love it too. It's a great sequence. And the at the turn, at the airport, where they are. I mean, it's so well. This is a movie that you have to watch multiple times, which you got to commend. Like, I understand if you don't want to watch it, you didn't like it, you don't want to watch it again, that's fine. But when you watch it again, every time you understand it more, it's a little bit funner. It's a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
And like just watching it again, just straight through, is really fun. But then, like, knowing that the first at the airport, like, he's fighting himself.
Yeah.
Like, that just makes it so much more complex and interesting.
Well, and it's so if we tried to do a linear recap of the bullet points of the plot of this film, even the linear recap is a circle. It's a loop. Yes. Because the protagonist's whole thing is preserving the loop that he created on the day that the movie starts.
Yes.
Even though he was in two places on that day, and he knows that, but
he does.
But also the version we're looking at doesn't know.
Yes.
Like, he knows that, but he doesn't know that.
One of them does, and one of them doesn't.
Yeah. Two of him know. The future him and the one in Siberia knows, but him at the Opera House doesn't know.
Nope,
there are multiple. There's more than two. There's more than two Neils. There's more than like there's
lots.
There's a lot. Neil talks about how he's at the end, how he goes, I'm just going to do one more thread in the pass of this plan.
Yeah.
That it's like the version of him that's going back to die at the door. He's just like, it's just like whatever. There's a bunch of me out there. There's a bunch of me out there crisscrossing back and forth through these turnstiles. But the protagonist is introduced to Tenet by a man on a boat after the opening sequence. The opera, which is a test to basically the test of like, if you're willing to bite this cyanide pill instead of giving up your teammates, it means that you're willing to die for a cause that you don't fully understand. Which in and of itself is kind of weird. Yeah. That like what they're looking for in the protagonist is like, do you have the willingness to go all in on something even if it doesn't fully make sense to you? And just the idea of loyalty to like your people, which can also be kind of a flaw. Like someone who's just loyal, like.
Well, and that's exactly what Sator is.
Yeah.
He does not understand who these people are. that are having him do that.
But they've made him rich.
They have with a lot of gold bars.
Yeah. And but also like Sador seems to understand that the dead man switch that he wears will destroy the world.
Yeah.
And somehow he's been convinced to just like embrace the nihilism of the. So what is true is that there is a contingent of there's a group of people in the future who are waging war on the past. And really they're waging war on kind of reality as we know it. Yeah. They're trying in their brains, I guess they're trying to like disprove the grandfather paradox, which is like the grandfather paradox in a nutshell is if you went back in time and you killed your grandfather, you wouldn't be able to do that because it would mean that you wouldn't exist. So you could not exist to go back and do that. There shouldn't be anyone who exists to kill your grandfather. Like people go, oh, the solution to the grandfather paradox is once you kill your grandfather, you blip out of existence too. But it's like, no. You shouldn't exist in the first place. If it's all one straight loop. But the future is betting that they'll be able to reverse the entropy of all space time itself. They've already built these turnstile machines that are our time machines that basically can just send an object or a person backwards through time by reversing their entropy. But they're theorizing that they can reverse all entropy and that won't somehow create the grandfather paradox of like, you can't do that because you would undo everything that's been done. Right. And somehow like Sador seems to know that it's a doomed mission, but I guess his thought is the people in the future are telling me that the future's doomed anyway. Yeah. So
I think it goes into his character. I think he likes the power. Yeah. I think he likes the thought, well, the world is in my hands. It's up to me. Like I think he says to his wife, if I can't have you, no one can. Sure. Right. And he even lies to the protagonist and says, oh, it wasn't my wife who pulled it. It was just a mistake. Like he's an egomaniac to the max, right? Yeah. Like he can't not be in control. Yeah. And the fact that he is in control of the entire world is what is motivating him in my mind. Like, and I think he's a very interesting character. And I think he's played very well by Kenneth Branagh.
Absolutely. But they are similar characters in that they don't fully neither one of them fully understands who they're working for or what makes them good and the other side bad. I think for Sador, it's just like you said. I think that he's just like, well, what I know in this is right here and now. These people are taking care of me and my family, and they're the reason why I'm a multi-billionaire and why I command my own personal army and have a yacht and have a beautiful wife and a son and a family. And so I don't really care if I understand it at all. And to John David Washington, it's sort of it's harder to understand his motivation, but I think it goes to that line of like, don't try to think about it too hard, just feel it. I think somewhere inside he sort of, without knowing it, understands subconsciously that Tenet is him. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of explained to him by this scientist lady that it's like there is a war in the future because they've figured out how to reverse entropy. These people are trying to, and we're trying, whatever. There are two sides and we're on the good side. Mm-hmm. But how do you trust anyone when one of the main tools that Tenet uses is ignorance? They can only, like, right when he meets that woman, she's like, the less we say about ourselves, the better. Like, let's not, no small talk. Let's not talk about who we are, how we got here. We both know the Tenet symbol. That's all we need to know. Yeah. My job is, and he says, what are we doing? And she says, your job's the what? My job is the how. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think because you physically change as you reverse your entropy, right? Mm-hmm. As he's in that shipping container and they're getting closer and closer to the dock where the plane has crashed, his arm gets worse and worse, right? And he starts bleeding at a certain point, right? Because he's getting closer to the injury that happened to him. And I think you could kind of feel what's going on, right? Like
Yeah.
I think there is a sense because they don't really explain the dude who I have no idea who this guy is.
The guy on the boat. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, he was in Insomnia. That's why Christopher Nolan hired him. I
Yeah,
guess.
and he's in Ant-Man.
Yeah, he's in a bunch. Like he's a recognizable actor,
uh-huh.
but I don't know who he is in the story. Like,
Yeah, no.
But John David Washington takes, and he doesn't even explain what's going on. He's just like, you're gonna need to do this thing that you're not gonna understand, and this is what you need to know. And Tenet is all, but he goes along with it, and it really, I think it is something that is pulling him, right?
Well, it's also interesting because he goes, I resign.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I don't like that you guys did this.
Yeah.
I don't like
Yeah.
that you sent me into a mission that you knew was doomed, and then it was all a test, and that like my men didn't make it out apparently. And he's like, no, I resign. And then the guy's just sort of like, well, he's like, but he has that whole speech about how like, well, most people don't really know what they would do in a situation where there's a burning building. You do. And he's like, you know that you're willing to make the sacrifice play. You know that but it's like, so here's the symbol, and like I can only tell you so much, and we're going to drop you off at this place, and then you're going to go do this thing, and it'll open some doors for you, some of the wrong ones too.
Yeah.
And just being like, okay, how do I know which ones are the good ones? How do I know which ones are the wrong ones? And I do think that the way you have to understand the protagonist as a character is he is slowly figuring out as he weaves back and forth through these turnstiles. Oh, the reason why I've been saying yes to this the whole time, because even like getting off the boat and walking, and that guy just gets out of that car and just walks away, and he just gets in the car.
Yeah.
And it has it's like, how does he? I know that he's been in this world of espionage for a while. Yeah. At the beginning of the movie, we're introduced to, it's like code language that when he meets people, he says, we live in a twilight world, and they have to respond, and there are no enemies
there's no enemies at dawn or
dawn, or there's no friends at dusk or something like that.
Like that.
But there's code language, and he's in a world of espionage, so he's probably used to these kinds of handoffs. But it's still like, what if that guy was just like stepping out of his car to like say something to a coworker, and he's like,
hey, what are you
doing? Like, say less, fam. Like, just gets in the car and just steals the guy's car, and the guy's like, that's just
my car.
That's just GPS to my house. Like, he just drives to.
Why am I here?
Just goes into the house and like asks the guy's wife. He's like, Tenet.
Get out of my house.
Get out of my house. But there's something to the way that the protagonist moves through this movie that is just, he feels it.
Yeah, he's drawn to it.
He just feels it. His entropy is like pulling him till we get to the last scene where he realizes, oh, the reason why I've been going along with this is because I'm the guy who started Tenet.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say, like, to try to do a bullet points of the linear thing of this narrative is so weird, because you could say John David Washington founds Tenet in the future and then sets in motion a zigzagging plan of crisscrossing through back and forth through turnstiles till people get to him on the day of the opera and help get him to go through the loop until he gets back to the day of the opera at the end of the film and gets the algorithm out of the hole. Realizes Tenet is his operation and the temporal pincer movement was started by him, realizes he needs to close the loop of Priya and all these other people, but then he still has to go through and meet Neil at some point, and
his journey's not over.
And so the question of where is the beginning of his journey is very nebulous. Right?
It doesn't really matter because again, it's the whole grandfather paradox. Doesn't matter. It's a paradox.
It's kind of like, I guess his birth is but that's another big thing about this movie that we need to talk about is determinism. And we've talked about this before on this channel. What movie were we talking about where we talked about determinism?
I am really trying to remember.
We did talk about it though.
We did.
But
it was,
I can't remember.
I'll find it here
because it was in the title of one of them. It was like determinism, and so if you look up the one or determinism, anyway.
It was Minority Report.
Minority Report. Determinism. Of course.
I should have known that.
Yeah. Why'd you catch that ball? Because it was going to fall.
But it didn't fall. You caught it.
You caught it. Yeah.
The fact that you stopped it from happening doesn't prevent it from happening at all.
Or it doesn't mean it wasn't going to happen.
Doesn't mean it wasn't going to happen. Yeah.
Just because you stopped it from happening doesn't mean it wasn't going to happen. Even though it's like, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, that's the thing. Though.
I was always going to be here.
That's the
and so, yes, so we've talked about this before on this channel. And I really like the way that this movie, the whole thing is the protagonist kind of feels the way that he feels, and he doesn't fully understand why, because they seem to exist in a deterministic universe in Tenet.
Yeah.
It seems to be the only way that this can work, that the turnstiles can work, is if determinism is a thing.
Yeah.
So there is a thing with these machines called a proving window, where when you're getting into a turnstile, you have to look through the window and you have to see yourself getting in on the other side, because it means that you'll come out the other side.
Yeah.
If you don't see yourself going in on the other side, they say in the movie, like, oh, you'll cease to exist. But we were talking about this at the end of the film. In most movies, if a screenplay sets something like this up, like a rule, like never cross the streams. Why? What happens if we cross the streams? It could be very bad. It could be like a nuclear explosion.
It could destroy everything.
Usually the film is setting that up to be like, at some point in this movie, we're totally going to cross the streams. You know, usually that's why you say that.
Yeah, it's Chekhov's gun.
Yeah, but they don't do that in this movie.
No, I think, because I don't see this as a Chekhov's gun, as more of, this is a rule that you just have to, that's just how it goes.
Totally. I think that we were talking about this afterward with your boys.
Yeah.
Because your son Nolan, named after the director,
yes,
was asking, he was like, well, what would happen if someone went in and they didn't see themselves in the window? And I've always asked that question, and it was only tonight that I was like, I don't think it's possible.
Yeah.
I think in the world of Tenet, it's not possible for someone to go into a turnstile and not see themselves in the proving window.
And as we talked about it, because I don't think the turnstile, as we talked about it, I don't think the turnstiles work unless two physical beings of the same origin, right? So two of the same person are in there. That is what triggers it to work.
Yeah,
I feel like
if you split your body down the middle, and half of you was red and half of you was blue, and in the turnstile is just swapping the entropy between the blue side and the red side, and it needs both sides in order to work.
But I feel like it's almost some sort of, which maybe I'm going way too far into this, but I feel like it's
I don't think we are. I think that's what this movie's about.
Yeah, but it's like the fact of, she's like, because when he first goes in reverse, she's like, you got to wear these suits because you don't want to come into contact with your body. Well, what happens if I come into contact with my body? You'll be decimated. Like that bending of space and time, and that Big Bang or whatever you want to call it, like that's what charges the turnstile. That's what it does. Maybe it is that whole the energy of that event is what powers it.
Also, I just had this thought.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why reversing the entropy of everything would destroy everything. Because if you reverse everything's entropy, everything is already touching itself.
Yeah.
The inverted version of everything will be pressing up against the non-inverted version, and it will all decimate.
Yeah.
And so
it's going to ruin space-time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like you can have inverted objects moving through as long as they're not touching their non-inverted selves.
Right.
But yeah. That's
yeah. So it's kind of like, anyway, that is an interesting thing about the turnstiles. And it's funny because that is that's an extremely important part of the movie, which is the midpoint, right? When they find the turnstiles.
Yep.
And it could be that, because that is the whole, it's probably more important. Like when I first saw it on the first time, I was like, oh, that's just the machine. But that was really, that was kind of everything, right? Like there's...
Yeah, it's really interesting because there's that point where they first find the turnstiles and he first fights himself. But to me, this movie has always been, it almost has two midpoints. And again, the structure of this film is very weird. It's palindromic.
Yeah.
And so the midpoint for the forward moving protagonist that we start at the opera with is the airport, is the Freeport scene. The midpoint,
pretty much.
But then there's another switch where the movie turns back, and it's when they do the turnstiles after the car chase scene.
Yeah.
And the whole movie sort of flips and folds back in on itself at that point.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's a very
It's a very complicated movie.
Yeah.
That again, Christopher Nolan, he's not just making it up as he goes. Like,
yeah.
He's figured it out. And there's obviously paradoxes because it just has to be. That's just how it is. But it's amazingly well constructed and well weaved together. Like it's pretty amazing when you sit back and kind of think about it all and see how it all does work.
It's interesting how the future communicates with Sator by giving him information. They will so basically any electronic information is communicating with the future because it's all part of the digital record.
Yeah.
So if you write an email or a text or something like that, like they're tracking all of that, and they'll have a record of it the second that you type it in the future, and they'll be like, okay, we've got it. Yeah. And then they can't what Sator will do is basically write an email and say like, hey, I'm dropping this information about this thing that happened here at this time. And then simultaneously, there will be a drop from the future that's inverted. Yep. The people from the future will invert a package for him, bury it at the same place. So they'll have a simultaneous handoff because they know it's coming forward to them and they're sending it backwards to him, and it'll be there at the same time. Yep. They've agreed on a date, but they allow him to be in on more of it. And I think there are questions from some people sometimes of like, well, if the protagonist founded Tenet, why isn't he giving himself more information? Why isn't he? Why is it so important for Tenet to function with so little information? Why does everyone who work for Tenet always have to be like, so like, I have to only tell you the bare minimum? And I think it's really interesting. It's like the protagonist in the future who founds Tenet knows how the mission is successful. Yeah. He's lived through the successful version of the mission, and he knows that there is a version of him that lived through the mission not knowing certain information. Yeah. And so he in order to sell it to Sator in the future, he has to trust that version of, like, they constantly say what's happened. And there's also this line of like, what's happened doesn't mean, you just sit, like determinism doesn't mean like we don't do anything. Yeah. We still have to act. Right. But it's this faith in the fundamental mechanics of the universe is what Neil says. Yeah. But I think the protagonist is trusting, like, I did it this way the first time, I'll do it this way again. Yeah. And I remember I did it because I felt it. Yeah. And I'll do it that way again. But I can't, be careful. Don't tell me too much, or I might do something different. Yeah. And that's what he says. Like, just what happens, and don't tell me too much because it might change things. So, well, how do you know that? Well, I don't, but that's just how it goes. But then that's crazy when you think about Neil's track, because Neil is actually going through all of this with a lot of information. Yeah. And he's already lived it. And he's also been told a lot by future John David Washington. Yes. So his job is to, like, how do I, like, it's almost like John David Washington probably told him, like, this is everything I remember about how you acted. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I know. Yeah. It's kind of, Or is he going through just as blind? Did he train Neil to be like, I'm only going to tell you? I would imagine he did. Places to be. Yep. I imagine he told him as little as possible. Yeah. Just to kind of let his relationship with him go. So I don't know. That's probably actually how it went. That it's like, I'm going to tell you where you need to be. So it's like the first time they meet, and Ludwig Göransson does this really cool thing where he does this inverted sound before we meet Neil. Yeah. It's probably just, this is where we meet, and then I'm going to tell you about a mission or just whatever. But he's already met him. Yeah. And it's like the older version has already met him. Yeah. Which is why the theory which you told, which I didn't ever realize before tonight, but that Neil is Max. And which could be very interesting, because then he would, I can definitely see that. As with this style of Nolan film, The Prestige, Inception, this Tenet, there are so many fan theories. People love Interstellar is another one. People love to ruminate over the different details in these screenplays. This one especially has a lot because it's so the audience just still feels so disconnected from it by the end of the film. Yeah. there's a lot of speculation. This is a big one, that Neil is Sator's son.
Yeah.
And in the future, having been heartbroken by losing his father as a young boy, and I don't know. Watching it this time, thinking about that, there was a lot that made me feel like, oh man, boy, it does feel like Nolan is trying to say that.
Yeah.
Because there's also a theory that somehow Michael Caine is Ives.
Ives, yeah. Yeah.
But I have a hard time with this. It could be like, and Christopher Nolan might be able to sit you down and explain all of the weaving back and forth that you have to do this. My problem with this is if Neil is
Max,
or is the protagonist's friend from the future, and Neil has traveled back across time decades to arrive at the point that the movie takes place, in my mind, the movie establishes that reverse entropy ages you backwards.
Right.
Which means that Neil would have started off as an older man, and he's aged back to the age of Robert Pattinson. Because, like you said, having the wound show up in his arm and get bigger as he gets closer to the point of the wound happening shows me that when your body is inverted, you are experiencing physical changes in reverse.
Yeah.
So wouldn't the science of that say you would age in reverse?
That's what I have always thought as well.
Yeah.
Like, do you age in reverse? So if you go back 38 years, you're not going to exist. If you and I were to go back 38 years. That's kind of how I always saw it, because I saw it as a 1-for-1. But I think the fan theories are fun, because you can see like, oh yeah, maybe it is. Like maybe it is, because like, and that's again another kind of masterclass of Nolan is like, yeah, just let your theories fly. Like he's setting things up that could possibly be.
Yeah.
And he's not answering questions that don't need to be answered. And so it's fun to think about that. I don't think we're ever going to get a sequel to Tenet.
No.
So believe whatever you want. I think it's fun to believe that stuff, and it is cool to kind of think of that. But
people have a lot of reasons people are really high on this one. Like Maximilian, if you spell it with an L-I-E-N at the end of it, Maximil-I-E-N, million, and then you reverse L-I-E-N, it's Neil. It's Neil. And people, it's like, well, that's stupid, but it's like, well, Sator's company is called Rotas, and that's his name backwards. And also, I think in another part of the movie, the word opera appears, but apero, opera, arepo.
Arepo,
appears somewhere else. I can't remember what, and so it is something he does in the film. And here's the thing. I will say this. If Neil is meant to be Max,
yes,
the movie doesn't do quite enough, in my opinion, to get us there. It is like, it's there if you want to see it that way, but I also think that it's a little bit of a misstep, because I do think it kind of breaks the established rules of reversed entropy.
Yeah.
At least as I understand them, which is not like your sons even said, they were like, well, maybe if you go like back and forth a lot, you can sort of like go back a year, then go for, I don't know.
I don't know how it works.
If
it's a 1-for-1, it doesn't
seem like it works out.
No, but it's fun, because if you wanted to, you could make it work.
Like in my mind, the future war is not, they talk about it like it's like 100 years in the future, and I don't think it is. I think it's like 20 years. Yeah. Like I think it's like quite close.
It might be more than 20, but I don't think it's like more than 100.
Yeah, I don't think it's that far. And I think that like when Neil and the protagonist meet, they're like in their 50s, maybe 60s. But it really is mind-blowing to think about the life that Neil has led then.
Yeah.
Because Neil has been zigzagging back through time for decades.
Yeah.
To become this younger version of himself and like meet up with his old friend. And
Yeah.
I will say this line has always bothered me. At the end of the movie, he says, "We have a future in the past."
Yeah.
And I feel like it should be flipped. I feel because it's like when you say like you and I actually have a history together. We have a past. You and I do. But what he means is what it should be is we have a past in the future.
Yeah.
In the future, we've been friends for years in the future.
Yeah.
And we have a past. But he says we have a future in the past, and I'm like, well,
that means that you've gone back.
Yeah, we have a future together before this, and I'm like, but that I don't know.
But yeah, I agree. But it's also all right, cool. Like if that's what you want to believe about it, if Max and Neil are the same person, that's great. If Ives and Michael Caine are the same person, cool. If they're not, it still works just as well. It's fun to theorize.
I think it's fun to think about. I think there's stuff in the movie that leans into it, especially this watch through. I was like, oh, like when they're talking about where they're going to send Kat to kill Sador, because they know that an inverted version of Sador is going to go to a point to die and trigger the algorithm once they have all the pieces. Yep. He's got this kill switch that like it's like, hey, once we've buried this thing, once we've got all 9 pieces of the algorithm, I'll be somewhere, I'll trigger the kill switch, and then you can reverse the entropy of the world and see if it kills everybody.
Yeah.
But Kat's like, it could be on the yacht, and Neil kind of jumps in. He's like, in Vietnam on the 14th. And he's like, and he seems to have an emotional connection to that. And that's like a big day for their family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just found that interesting that he seems to like know that, and the movie, and I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah. You never know.
So
it could be.
But my thing would be like, if it was that, I wish Nolan would give us a little bit more. And also I wish he would find a way for that to like be like make sense with the science of how time travel works in this movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, again, you take it either way. It's a fun movie.
I think I prefer that it's not. I think I
prefer that
Michael
it's
Caine
not.
is not Ives and Neil is not Max because it makes it sit better in my brain.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that, but it's fun to see the possibilities. I kind of want to go to what you were talking about. Let's go back to the ending of the movie.
Okay.
I think that this is the problem with the movie, is that the end is so hard to follow. It's very hard to stay connected. And the biggest criticism that I hear from Nolan movies all the time, which is very valid, is his sound. His dialogue is so hard to hear.
And it happens in a lot of his films. There is no bigger offender than Tenet.
No. This is
every
the
time I
worst.
watch it, I'm just like, I can't believe the sound mix of this movie.
I know.
I just can't believe it.
Yeah, and it's intentional. Nolan did it like, he just kind of,
in certain areas, I get it. But there's certain areas where I'm like, I really think I'm supposed to hear this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've got masks on, and it's like, okay. Yeah. And it's so funny. I don't disagree with that. Mm-hmm. Like I actually do wish that there was some more that was a little bit clearer. You can kind of push it a little bit to make it sound a little more clear.
I think that's the major difference between Inception and this for me.
When
you said Inception is right on the line and this goes just over, Inception I know just enough to stay invested in the stakes. Yeah. When they explain the time dynamics of the dream layers, and that it's like, it's this much more time in this layer and this much more time in this layer. If we go deeper than that, we're lost in limbo and we might not come back. Yeah. And I understand those stakes. Yep. And I know that we're like, okay, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's in this layer. They're one layer deeper that they didn't plan on going. They don't want to go down here because, I get lose their mind. I get just enough to be locked in. This, when Ives is trying to explain the mechanics of the pincer, I need you to slow down or just give me just enough to like know what I'm looking for. you know?
It's so I kind of tune out in that whole scene because I'm like, what? Like, I'm lost already, and I don't know it. And that's the biggest problem for this movie is really the third act.
Yeah.
Like they're in the boat.
But that sound thing is a problem the whole film.
Oh, the sound is for sure.
It's a problem the whole film.
That's a problem with just Christopher Nolan in general.
Sure, but this movie, it's like...
It's really bad in this one.
Which it makes it... Because I literally just go like, this movie's so cool. Like the discussion we've been having, it's like, it's so much fun to talk about. And I just want to be able to hear it like 10% better. Yeah.
Like I would love to hear it better.
Yeah.
It would be nice. But it also, I think on an enjoyment level, it would help because it's like, I know everything is cool, but they're shooting at people and I don't really know who the people are. And like, they're saying things are going to happen and then they happen in reverse. And it's really fun to watch, but also like emotionally, I'm kind of absent because it's so hard to understand what's going on. Like, again, the stakes, and we've talked about this before. Like, yeah, I understand the stakes are that the entire world could be destroyed, but with Inception, the stakes are personal. If this doesn't happen, Leonardo DiCaprio does not see his kids. Mm-hmm. I can relate to that so much more. Now, and I can relate to the fact of you're going to lose your mind. You'll be lost in your subconscious for so long. Mm-hmm. You will not be the same person when you wake up. I get that. Mm-hmm. That makes very personal sense. But I mean, the nice thing that Tenet has is that Kat has a son, and I can understand that. Mm-hmm. Like, if she'll lose her son, but that's so small, and the son is such a small part that it's like, it's enough, but it's not. It could have been better. But Inception, the stakes are so personal and so precise that I invest in it so much more. Mm-hmm. This movie, with it being so big and so hard to grasp, it emotionally takes me out of the climax. And I wish I was in it more. Now, having said that, it still is... I understand the very basics, so I can still have fun with it. And I can still be amazed by like him stepping on a rock and then that rock flipping up and realizing it's a part of the building that is inverted and it falls up into itself, so it flips him off. Like, that's fun. That's
Watching
cool.
people run forwards while explosions are going in reverse is awesome. So cool.
It's really fun.
I mean, technically, it's just a marvel of an action set piece. It's just insane to watch. But yeah, you're right. That's part of the problem with the protagonist as a character in general. Yeah. Is that because we don't understand why he's doing what he's doing, and he doesn't fully understand it, and that's integral to what the movie is trying to talk about philosophically. Yes. That it's like the protagonist can't know. He just needs to feel it and trust it. Yeah. And that's how everyone kind of in Tenet is operating, is they're all just trusting that it's like the right thing because something in them feels good about it. Yes. But that makes for narratively, we're still like, yeah, but what, like, and the movie tries to be like, oh, he kind of has a thing for Kat. It's like, does he? I don't know. It seems like Sador thinks he does, but and it's like he sort of does, I guess. But like, it doesn't really seem like the protagonist has like personal attachments, really.
Which makes sense for the story.
Yeah.
But it's hard for us as an audience.
It's weird. But also I think this is kind of an interesting moment. He gets like emotional when he's saying goodbye to Neil, and he's such a like detached character who pragmatically doesn't form strong bonds with people. And I know that he knows Neil's going off to sacrifice himself for him, and so that makes him kind of emotional. That like he knows Neil knows I'm the only one who can open that door, so I got to get there and open the door and then die for you. Yeah. And he's like, but don't worry, champ, I'll see you at the beginning. Yeah. Like, you know, but to see the protagonist get emotional, I even think there's a little bit of like some part of him somehow can feel the connection he has with Neil that goes deeper than just the last few weeks that he spent with him. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. It's an interesting,
but that's hard to get us invested in, because it's so heady.
Yes,
it
is. Yeah. And it makes sense for the character, and it makes sense for the world, why he would be detached and why he would be that way. But you're sacrificing our emotions for that.
Yeah. It's like, how do we get something for John David Washington? Or again, just if Max is Neil, letting us know that, that we have another like emotional anchor in the story, that, you know, making that more, and then somehow developing a stronger emotional connection between the protagonist and Kat.
Yeah.
And having that be like I think there could be some interesting wrinkles here of like things that are like not supposed to happen as a member of Tenet. Like, you're not supposed to form emotional attachments with people. You're not supposed, you know, you're supposed to be very pragmatic and like rooted in the cause of preserving the loop. But like running into Kat and feeling something about her and her child that he doesn't understand, and what he does, because I think there's also this, again, getting deep in the woods of like philosophy here. Time is a flat circle. We experience it forwards because that's how entropy works. Entropy is the movement of things from order to disorder. It is a law. It's a physical law of the universe. What this movie posits is, what if we built a machine that could turn it backwards? It's kind of like the show Devs. It's like, what if I built a machine that could look forwards and backwards because it had all of the data in the world? What does that do deterministically? If you could watch yourself 5 seconds in the future, could you make a different choice? Could you do something differently?
Right.
If, you know, the way that time works in the world of Tenet seems to be, whether you're aware of it or not, you can feel things from your future self.
Yeah.
You can, because if your future self is affected by your past self, if me now is affected by things that happened to me when I was 10, then maybe it's all part of the same. So if the movie wants to say that the emotional connection for the protagonist is something he doesn't fully understand, but we can as the audience. That's the thing, is like, let us in, keep him in the dark. That's fine. But let us in, let us know that he doesn't understand why he cares so much about Kat and this kid, but it's because that kid is his friend Neil, and he doesn't know that yet.
Right.
And again, I don't really think that works with the way that the science is presented to us, but I'm saying it would give us something that, like, go ahead and keep the character in the dark, but let us
figure it.
you know, I don't know.
And that would be nice. It would be nice to have a simpler understanding of the third act, but it also would probably not be as interesting of a movie. So
and that third act. So it's interesting because the opening sequence at the opera and the ending sequence in Siberia are two of the only action sequences of this movie that we don't see twice. Which the ones in the middle we get to see from two different perspectives. And that's why those are always my favorite ones.
They're super interesting.
I love going through the car chase scene and then seeing that car reverse and then like flip over, and then knowing that like the protagonist saw himself driving that inverted car and threw the algorithm into the, I just, I think it's
very engaging. Because you get a different perspective on the same scene. But it is also, and you're totally right, the opening action sequence and the ending action sequence are the two that I disconnect with most, because I don't have as much information, and because it's hard to get the context of it. But they're also two of the most fun sequences to watch. Yeah,
they're amazing set pieces. I think what makes the fight at the airport with the explosion and the car chase scene, what helps is because we get to see them both ways. It's like the first time through, there's just information we're not getting. We're experiencing it like we would if we were going. And the second time through, the protagonist has more information because he's now going, oh no, I just did this. And we're also seeing why things happened the way that they happened because we're getting the other perspective. when we don't get that on the opening sequence and the end sequence, we're just left with the confusing version of it.
Yep.
We don't get the second pass through to go, like, it's almost like I want him to invert at the end and go back through the whole thing and be like, okay, I see what they were looking at on their watches now.
That
but
it's
already a 2.5 hour long movie.
It is, yeah. That would add another half an hour at least. So.
Yeah. I think going back to this comparison to Inception again too, and like the third act of Inception versus the third act of this film. We talked about maybe one of the flaws of Nolan being it gets exposition heavy sometimes.
Yes.
But movies like Inception and Tenet need it.
They do.
We need you to tell us as much as you can, or at least the bare bones. And I feel like Inception does a better job. Again, this is why the sound mixing is a big problem in this film.
Yeah.
Is I actually think that there are enough scenes in this movie to explain just enough for us to like be like, I got it just enough to follow along. But we miss like half of them because they're buried.
Yeah.
And Inception's the same way, where it's like they explain the mechanics of what they do just enough for us to go like, I got you. Like your job is you extract information from people's subconsciouses. Their subconscious fights you while you do it.
Right.
And you have to like get out without their subconscious killing you.
Yeah.
I got it. And Inception is you're trying to plant information rather than take it out.
Right.
Enough said. It's the dream world. Dreams are weird. We're dealing with all this weird stuff. This movie, it's like I know just enough to know like, cool, there's a machine that reverses things entropy, and there are teams. But I'm like, if they sort of tell us, like Ives says, oh, it's a pincer movement. And he's like, a pincer movement? And he's like, yeah, but not a spatial one, a temporal one.
Temporal pincer movement, yeah.
And that's a big part of it, because the whole movie, the whole film is a temporal pincer. But that's a term that the movie just sort of takes for granted that the audience understands. That it's like, you all know what a pincer maneuver is, right?
No.
And it's like the first time you watch this movie, it's like, no, I don't.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
But they're just sort of like, but it's a temporal pincer, everybody. And it's like, cool, I don't know what that is.
Thank you.
I understand the difference between spatial and temporal.
Yes.
But I don't know what the other thing is.
What's a pincer? You're making me think of a bug.
And that's like where like the scene before the final action sequence when Ives is doing the breakdown, I wouldn't mind, like, even though it's like all the guys in that room probably should know what a pincer movement is.
Yeah, tell me. Yeah.
Him to explain, take a moment to explain what a temporal pincer is, or when they're on the boat, explain it.
Yeah.
Explain what a temporal pincer is.
Yeah,
you know?
and it would be good to have again in Inception, you have Ariadne who is brought into the world,
right?
So they have to explain it to her. That's a lot of time. That's a device you use to get your exposition into a movie so that you can explain it to somebody who doesn't know. So if they were to have someone in there who didn't know, who was wait, what's a pincer movement? Oh, it's this, and this, like that.
But that's the protagonist.
But he's already a part of the world.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
I guess
he knows what a pincer
movement is.
So it's like if Kat was in there,
Kat should be
if Kat was in there and it's like, wait, what are you talking about? Like that might have been
especially because she's such a big part of.
She is. She has to know exactly what's happening.
The beginning of the film, Kat is not involved in the world of espionage.
No, not at all.
She's not aware at all that her husband is talking to people from the future.
Yeah, no, she has no idea.
And controls all of these turnstiles that are essentially time machines. She does not know that. Halfway through the film, she becomes aware of this, and she gets she gets recruited to work on behalf of Tenet. That's your character that you can then like spend a second or two explaining what a pincer movement is. And I think you can do that because I think the other thing that Christopher Nolan's always worried about in this film is like, but our characters can only know so much because everyone who's involved with Tenet is only allowed to know so much. But it's like, I think you can explain to Kat, just for our benefit, what a pincer is and how a temporal pincer works. I think it would go so far. First of all, fix your sound mix. And then second of all, explain just that. It would go so far in understanding the entire film and understanding that The Prestige, that movie is darn near perfect.
Oh, so
and the way that they just explain the rules of the film at the beginning of the movie, and they just tell you the entire movie is this. This is how a magic trick works, and this is going to be the structure of this film.
Yes.
And if you just had a scene where it's like, oh, this is what a temporal pincer is, and you explain it, how it's meant to work, as the audience, we could go, oh, that's what the whole movie is. The whole movie is that. Yeah. And then it just is, but instead, and I get it, it's like less is, it's a movie that is not really, but I don't know. It's just like, hard. We're just left out of it. Just this much, and then also the sound mix. Yeah. To the point where it's like, oh, it's so close to being.
It is
a masterpiece.
It is. It is. What a huge swing that. He took. That good for him, and it still is an extremely entertaining movie.
Yeah, we kept saying to your boys every time there would be an action scene, we'd be like, just so you guys know, this is real.
Yeah, this was all done for real, which is absolutely insane that they bought a plane. They crashed it for real. They shut down a freeway. They had a whole car chase, which you can tell that it's all just the tangibleness of it is awesome.
I think we just talked about this with Project Hail Mary, and I think we should spend just a second on this once again of like the concept of doing things the hard way.
Yes.
This movie is another just great example of that. One of the reasons why it's still such an entertaining film to watch, despite some of the frustrations. Is that it is the way that they constructed it, because initially when you watch it, you're like, playing things in reverse is not that impressive of an effect. I can do that. I can film something on my phone right now and play it in reverse. Like, that's not that impressive of tech. But then when you think, wait, but in all of these action sequences, there are things moving forward and backward at the same time.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wait a minute. So they're doing a car chase scene where one car is driving backwards and all of the other cars are driving forwards, and it's like, yes, literally. Like, they didn't reverse the footage.
No,
they're they did that stunt backwards.
Driving backwards.
And it's like, okay, that's actually insane. Or the fight sequence where it's like John David Washington learned the fight scene forwards and backwards. And to a lesser degree, Kenneth Branagh speaks backwards in this movie.
It's crazy. It is pretty crazy, and it's pretty awesome that they did that, and they did it the hard way. And I think it pays off because the sequences are very exciting.
Pretty cool movie.
Pretty fun. It's a fun movie, that's for sure.
Anything else we want to say before we?
No, I think we can get into scores.
All right. So Tenet, we give scores for technical rating, the ending, rewatchability, cultural impact and significance, and our subjective score. So what's your technical rating for Tenet?
My technical rating is an 8. It's amazing what they did. They bought a plane, just as we talked about, all the practical effects that they did. There were under 300 VFX shots, which is insane. That's so small.
That's actually so insane.
I mean, Avengers Endgame had 2,900-ish.
People have been talking about how little Project Hail Mary relied on green screen. There were 2,000 effect shots in that film.
There you go.
Yeah.
See? So this is insane that they did that.
Yeah.
The score is amazing by Ludwig Göransson. He's awesome. Everything he does. It's edited well. It's directed well. Everything is done so well. But the points that I'm taking off is because of the third act, and because the sound mix is just a really hard movie to follow, which is good for repeat viewings because I can watch it and I can get it more, but it's also still is just hard to connect emotionally with it.
Yeah, it's like, I'm all right with a movie having more to reveal to you the more times you watch it.
Yeah.
But this movie, it's like part of the reason why you need to keep rewatching it is because it's just hard to hear.
Yeah.
Which is like, that's not like, oh, your movie has all of these hidden layers. It's like, you just sort of like made a technical error that like I have to like strain my way around to enjoy your film more. And a movie that is otherwise technically constructed so beautifully, it's really a frustrating thing.
It's hard, yeah.
My score's an 8 too, and it's like, I want to give this a higher technical rating because there are so many things here that are 10 out of 10. Hoyt van Hoytema, 10 out of 10. Kenneth Branagh is given a 10 out of 10 performance. I think John David Washington's giving like a 9.
Yeah.
I think Robert Pattinson's given like a 9.5. I think,
I think even Elizabeth Debicki?
Yeah.
Sorry, Elizabeth Debicki she's really good in this.
Yeah. I think that our stunt team is giving 10 out of 10 work. Yeah. I think Ludwig Göransson is given 10 out of 10 work, but it's actually like, I think, a director problem that it's like,
he's writer director.
Yeah,
too, so
it's like, and it's like, man, I respect the ambition of this movie.
Oh yeah.
And I so wish there was a cut where you would just like make it 10 to 15% more clear.
Yeah.
Just because I think that you could turn this into maybe your best, like, it's such an impressive thing that
it is. Yeah.
And it's still like crazy. He made a palindrome movie. Like
it's pretty insane.
That's
pretty
crazy.
Awesome,
yeah. How about ending?
Ending, I gave an 8 as well, just because it's the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. It's fun to watch, but it's hard to follow and connect with emotionally.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it an 8 as well, because typically for a movie like this, you want the structure to sort of just expand out like this and be the coolest thing to be the climax. But the two most confusing sequences in the film are the beginning and the end, which is fitting thematically.
Yes. Yeah.
But we shouldn't be just as confused at the end as we are in the beginning.
Yeah.
Again, the two sequences that we get the most information on are the ones that we get to double back on.
Yeah.
And I feel like by the end we should have enough information to be like, okay, I got it. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I might even go down to like 7.5 because of that,
I could see that.
Yeah. How about rewatchability?
Rewatchability, I gave an 8. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit higher because this rewards you on repeat viewings, and you do enjoy it more when you watch it and you understand it more.
Yeah. I would say I'm going to give this an 8.5 rewatchability because I do really like it. Yeah. Maybe it's just an 8 because I get frustrated every time by the sound mix.
I'm back and forth by that too.
I know.
Yeah,
I get frustrated when I watch, but I also I understand it better every time. And what is cool about this movie is it's like he did make a movie that's kind of impossible to truly appreciate and love on the first watch. Yeah. Which you could say, hey, come on, man, you gotta let me in from the first viewing. Yeah. But it's kind of cool that like the more you watch it, the better it gets. Yeah. So yeah, there's something to that. How about cultural impact?
Cultural impact, I'm giving a 7. It's a very divisive Christopher Nolan film, and I think it's probably his most divisive. And it's probably it came out in 20. Did it come out in 2020?
Yeah.
Or was okay because
or 2021.
Yeah, I can't remember, but I mean, he was really I think it was 2020.
He was trying to bring the theaters back to life,
and people got mad at him for it. But it's like, listen, I think that was a bold move. It ultimately didn't seem to pay off, unfortunately, but we're fine now.
I remember I went and saw Hobbs and Shaw in the theater because there's nothing else in the theater. I did. I went and saw Hobbs and Shaw, and they had a trailer for Tenet.
Yeah,
and it was the best part of it was one. And Christopher Nolan does this because he's Christopher Nolan. It was one of those things where like the trailers ended, then they did the like, welcome to AMC theaters, and they did like the whole like pre-roll thing with like Nicole Kidman and all that stuff, and it was like then the movie starts. But before the movie started, it was like, and now enjoy this special presentation. And it was like, and then like the Sin Copy logo came up, and I was like, what? And like they showed and I was like, well, that was the best part of the whole movie. It was the trailer for the new Christopher Nolan movie. And they did the same thing with the Odyssey, where it was like after the trailers were done, they were like, and now a special trailer.
Yes. So now you get to see that. Yeah.
I would give this a 7 or a 7.5 because as frustrating as it is, people love. This is maybe the movie of his that people like to, next to Inception, that people like to talk about and rehash the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it has the most questions. And,
it does. Yeah, and it's the hardest to understand.
Yeah, but like there is an allure to it that is like it's hard to hate.
It is. Yeah, I don't hate it. That's for sure.
Definitely don't. Okay, how about subjective?
Subjectively, I'm giving it a 7.5. Mm-hmm. And maybe it should be an 8 because there's just something about it that's just so fun. Like, I will watch this movie a lot, and like I still enjoy it. But it really, I think, is ultimately the third act that just is still kind of what pulls it down the most.
Yeah.
So
I think this movie is so cool.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so frustrating.
Yes.
It is such a cool idea.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of thing that, like, if you were growing up and your friend was like, what about a movie where like the beginning is the end, and they're like, time travel is like you go through these turnstiles and they reverse your entropy and you just move one day at a time. You'd be like, what the? That sounds amazing. Like,
Yeah.
You know, and like he went and tried to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
And so much of it is so cool.
Yeah.
And a big part of the film is to just feel it, because that's how the protagonist is doing it. It's
Yeah.
just vibes.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating that I'm just like, just let me in, man. Let me in a
Yeah.
little bit more.
Yeah.
So yeah, 8 for me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. Cool.
All right. That's it.
All right. So let us know in the comments your theories. Is Max Neal, is Ives Michael Caine, or Sir Michael Crosby,
Yes, Michael Crosby.
as his character is named.
Yes.
Is Brooks Brothers the protagonist? Is
Yep, that's his name, Brooks Brothers.
yeah. Next week I'm shooting a film right now, and I'm going to be not available to do an episode. So we might do like some mini episodes. Kramer might go see. You might go see.
Might go see Mario.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I watched the movie Undertone for May 24, so I might do a little episode on that in my hotel if I have time. But no big episode next week, so we'll let you know when we know what we're doing next.
Yeah.
But like, share, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and we'll just see you on the next one.